Alright, so the S14 is finally back up and running, and it ended up being timing and injectors. Obviously I fixed the timing, it was still leaning out super bad, so when I changed the injectors, that fixed it. I did DW370cc, which is the stock CC injectors. Fixed it right up, now it runs pretty good. We did some testing as you saw at the beginning of this video, but there's still a bunch of stuff I have to do for the car. Biggest thing that I had to do, the transmission was being held on. It's being held on by the threads of like 2 bolts, because Mazworx, their crossmember does not fit at all whatsoever. And I tried to drill out and slot the holes, but that's hardened reinforced steel. That didn't go too well. I got it on there, it was sketchy, so finally I changed it out. I'm running Xcessive manufacturing's bracket, but that did not fit with the stock trans mount, so I had to solid mount the transmission, and this thing sounds like it's got straight cut gears. Hopefully in this video we'll do some driving in that configuration. You guys can probably hear the noise, because y'all know it made a lot of noise before. It makes a billion times more sounds now. It's cool, but it's not drivable, because when I was sitting on the highway just cruising like 5th gear, I'm vibrating, my teeth were vibrating, it's very uncomfortable, and we're not keeping it like that. So I did message XS to see if I can get some hardware so I can get my trans mount back on and get rid of the solid mounting. So that's a future project. B-Knuckle is on, it feels decent. The lock stops are still on. We gotta cut those off, make sure the wheel's not over centering. Then we gotta get the alignment, but that's all in the back burner because the car's solid except for one big issue, and that's the power steering. Power steering is going out in the car. I can't even say going out, it's gone. This is from Summit, it's the new power steering pump. It's a KA power steering pump. But apparently KA pumps, if you use the SR pulley and bracket, it will fit. Replacing that pump, we have to flush the system, get new lines, and that's just gonna be one line because I already have 2 that are decent. It's this braided line, so we might use that, but I just wanna get the power steering situation fixed because no power steering is not bad, but it doesn't feel as good. You know, I want the B-Knuckle to be really smooth, really aggressive, snappy, and work properly. It's hard to do that when you have power steering that doesn't work. The Peak 8.4. Stock T28 that's on there, it's stock wastegate, which is 7 pounds. You can see it peaked at 8.4, and that was during the first clip of this video is when I reset it and pulled that number. So what I was thinking is I get the HKS Wastegate that was on the T25 before when we had it set to 11 PSI, take that, drill the bracket out, fit it to the T28 if it's possible, put the T28 to like 10 PSI and the car should feel really good. And I know you're like, oh, that's only 2 more PSI. The car peaked at 8.4. It doesn't stay steady at 8.4. It stays steady at 7 flat. So 3 PSI makes a huge difference because when I went from 7 to 11 on the T25, that was like, whoa, night and day. And the T28 is bigger, so obviously it'll make a noticeable difference that I think I'll benefit from because the car it's good, but it's slow. It's slow, and I can use that tiny little extra bit of power. I cleaned up the shop a little bit, and I'm gonna start working on the power steering pump, trying to fit that wastegate, doing the small stuff. Power steering pump is just about ready to come off. Took the lines off, drained it as much as I could, drained the res, drained the actual pump as much as I could using a turkey baster, which is a good cheat code. I was confused looking at the bracket, how to remove the pump. So we loosen that and then it comes all the way off. That's the bolt, that's the hardware, that's the chase base high pressure line, new pump, old pump. This looks fairly simple. I'll swap over the nozzle, which goes back to the res, and then I'll swap over the pulley, some extra brackets, and I think we'll be good. Tell me what's your motive? What's your motive? What's your motive? So tell me what's your motive? So the power steering pump is on. I don't know if y'all can see it past the rad hose, but it's in there. Real quick, I want to show you guys this. So because this is a KA pump, and pretty much even if you get an SR pump, I think it's the same way. You're gonna have a different setup for the banjo fittings. So when I pulled this out, this was stuck in there and I thought it wouldn't work, but I used a pick, like one of these, and grabbed the rim of this and pulled it out, and then the spring came out too. For the old pump, I just flipped it upside down and that popped out and this popped out. So these are the different configurations. Now this is because I have chase bays high pressure line going from the pump to the rack. If you don't have this and you have the stock stuff, this will work. But if you have chase bays, you got to do this whole switchover process. So this is what's in the new one. I'm flipping that and putting this in the new one. That way I can run this and we can finish the install, which we're almost done. Y'all heard the sound, so you see how gnarly the freaking solid mounted transmission is. Waiting for Xcessive to get back to me on that so I can get the right bushings in, get our mount back in the car, the Megan Racing mount. Car's good, still needs to get dialed in. The alignment I can tell is a little bit wonky. Power steering, I'm not gonna lie, doesn't feel perfect, doesn't feel as light. But also you gotta remember, I have 50mm spacers in the front. And so there's a ton of scrub. It's not gonna usually feel super light, but it is obviously much better than before. Before I would turn the wheel and it would just stop. It wouldn't go any further. It also was whining, the pump was whining as well. So this one's not crying anymore. It's a good thing. So Friday, I'm gonna try and see if we can get that wastegate on here, make this thing a little bit faster. All right, so here's the old wastegate. In the bracket, they don't look too different, so we're gonna see. I don't know if this is gonna work, but I'm gonna try and slot this bracket. As you can see from the shavings, oh boy, this method was beating me up. Also, I didn't think it was gonna clear. It didn't clear. So I did a little something. This is the OEM wastegate, and it was like do or die. Obviously, if I damage that, car won't run until I have a wastegate put on, but popped this bracket off, which was spot welded on in 6 places. Drilled those out, still didn't pop off, so you can see the carnage. Then I had to drill 2 holes to fit this onto here, and now it looks horrible, but this bracket will work with the aftermarket wastegate. So now I'm going to take all this, put it together, and install it back into the car. Wastegate's on. Don't judge. Here's the setup. I gotta get the wastegate arm on still. So I have a bike pump and Okay, so I got the E-clip on. Now I just gotta go and test this out and drive it. The good thing is with the AEM boost gauge, I have a peak setting so I can see where it's peaking at. I don't have to kind of watch it. I have stuff to watch it, but I can check afterwards. It's not like a, oh, I saw it do this, I saw it do that. It's also not a needle. So I can see an actual accurate readout of the boost instead of last time where I'm going off the needle, trying to look at the peak and all that stuff. So I'm gonna clean up a bit. We'll do our first test drive. I didn't turn it like crazy, so I'm expecting, honestly, on a minimum 8, 9, on a max maybe 10, 11. Preferably, I'm hoping for 10 or 11, peak, even with the spike, and I'll be good. So let's go on our first test. Okay guys, so we are on the street in Mexico, and we're gonna start testing out the wastegate, see what it's set at. I'm not sure what it's at right now, but we'll find out soon. We're gonna start warming up, and then we'll slowly get into full boost to see what it's at. Set the peak on it so I can see what we're getting at each time, because right now it's still, the peak is 8.4, but it was climbing really fast, I'm not gonna lie. I was kind of just getting on it. Obviously I'm in a higher gear, so it's gonna boost a bit quicker, but it was getting up there, and obviously the flutter's louder. All the same stuff that happened when I put the boost up on the T25. So real quick, I'm gonna reset the peak. Alright, so I just cleared the peak. So now, as we go with each stage, I can check what we're getting up to each time, instead of having to break 8.4 to see any type of change. Okay. And I turned up the boost, I would kind of get into it, and it would just like kick, like it had all that torque, that initial torque on the low end. And then when I went to this T28 with the 7 PSI wastegate, the stock one, that just wasn't there. Like I would not floor it, I would get on it, and it would just take so long, and I would be like, yo, come on, like where's the punch? I am gonna have to get on it, because I have to make sure 1000% that we're not over boosting. So the AFRs look good. I'm trying to watch both at the same time. It's a little bit hard to watch 3 things at the same time, but I'm gonna try. We'll get like one more pull in, and then we'll head back to the shop. Okay, 12.1 was the peak for that driving session. That was exciting though. This T20 feels nice. There's a bunch of other stuff we need to do that'll be in the future. So if you guys watched this far, I appreciate you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.